Thanks for checking out this review video. So this is for Creepshow Season 3, Episode 6, which is the final episode of the season. And the big question that's been on people's minds is, how are they going to finish the season out? Will it be with a bang? Will it be with a whimper? Unfortunately for me personally, I feel like it was a bit more of a whimper. Not terrible. Obviously, I will go over the two stories in this. No spoilers, though. No synopsis, any of that stuff. But I will go over the good and the bad for these. I really would have preferred that they finish the season with either episode 2, 3, 4, or 5, honestly, because 2, 3, 4, and 5 I thought were really good episodes that they could have used any one of those and kind of put it at the end as the final episode and left people wanting more, finishing with a real bang. Now, that said, it still doesn't change when you look at the season as a whole that it really has been quite a good season, in my opinion, especially in comparison to season 2. But I will be doing videos on, probably next week after I drop this video, I'll be doing a video on my feelings on all the seasons, like which season was the best, and then also ranking all the stories from season 3 during that video, and then I will have a separate video which is ranking every single Creepshow story, so that's including every season and all the specials and all that, so look for those videos. But for now, let's focus on Season 3, Episode 6, which is coming to Shudder on Thursday, October 28th. Now, first things first, you do get some of the creep in this, very limited like it has been for this season. At the end of the first story is when you get the creep, and that's it. That's just a little bit of creep. Like I've said in all my other reviews, I would like more creep. I really would like more creep, but the little creep that I get, I do appreciate. So the first story is called Drug Traffic. It is directed by Greg Nicotero, and as far as directorial stuff goes with Creepshow, he's directed the following Creepshow stories, which is a lot: Gray Matter, The Finger, Survivor Type, Twitterings from the Circus of the Dead, Shapeshifters Anonymous, Model Kid, Public Television of the Dead, Pesticide, Night of the Living Late Show, Queen Bee, and Skeletons in the Closet. A lot. So adding yet another one. I kind of feel like I know he's the showrunner, but I kind of feel like, maybe throw this off to some other people. I assume that he's probably doing so much of it to keep the cost down since he is the actual showrunner. But I kind of would like it to see it kind of like given to some other people. I'm going to make my plea again. Give more to Joe Lynch. His directing has been outstanding. Anyway, this particular story, Drug Traffic, was written by Christopher Larson, who's also written scripts for Dearest Sister, Karmalink, and The Long Walk. I have not seen any of those. I know nothing of them. And as far as stars go, Michael Rooker is in this one. And if people need to know what Michael Rooker's been in, I can't help you. He's been in a lot, and he's very iconic. So I'm sure that almost everyone watching this right now is like, yes, I know who Michael Rooker is. Good. You should know who he is. So his performance in this obviously is quite good. Other than that, solid performances. No problems with the performances in this one. But Rooker is particularly fun to watch. And that's like an always thing. Whenever I see Michael Rooker in anything, I'm always happy with him. So very early, you get an inkling of potentially what's coming story-wise. But I will say this. You're probably going to be wrong. Because it's a very like left field thing that ends up happening. And that's all I'm going to say about it. But based off how they kind of set it up, I was thinking, oh, this seems very much like they're going to go down this one path. And then when they reveal kind of like the evil at play here, I was like, did not see that coming. And that's pretty unique and original. So definitely points for originality with the story here. Definitely points on originality. They do kind of throw a bunch of social issues at the audience really fast in a conversation early on between two characters. And it kind of feels unfocused. Like they're kind of trying to pack too much that is just kind of seeming kind of erratic and frantic into this little thing. So like a lot of these stories, they'll have like a main social issue that they're kind of dealing with that they want to get through to people. Usually as subtext, sometimes a bit more overt than that. But with this one, it seemed like they were trying to throw in like so many things that like as an audience member, I was just like, what is being thrown at me right now? Like, what is coming? Like, can we pick a lane and stay in that lane for right now? And that, in general, is kind of my problem with the writing for this story, is it feels very choppy. It feels erratic. It feels kind of frantic. It feels unfocused. And that's my biggest problem with this story in particular. There are really good elements here, and like I said, it's very unique. Um, but it kind of feels like a mess. It really kind of feels like a mess and ends up playing kind of flat, in my opinion. Once the horror is revealed, it's a mix of that's unique and where are we actually going here? Because I was confused, and I was confused from the standpoint of like, what are we going to do with this in particular? Now, I think events wise, it was interesting what they ended up doing with the evil. So that's kind of fun and interesting. But I feel like that's kind of the best aspect of this story. And I also feel like even though it ties into the story, it felt very separate from the story. Like they didn't really intertwine all that well together. And maybe that's just me the way I was experiencing it. So people can let me know in the comments. But yeah, to me it felt like there were kind of two things going on here during this, and it was hard to like draw them together, honestly. So I was like, it's weird. What characters do and say feels erratic. This goes back to the writing. It feels like they're trying to have a few focuses that don't go well together. Overall, the writing is pretty much a mess, in my opinion. Like I said, like there are good ideas here. I just don't think they came together on the page all that well. It feels like they padded the runtime a bit as well, which you know me, I hate it when the runtime gets padded, especially for something like this, where each of these stories is like a little over 20 minutes. You should not be padding that runtime, and that speaks to you haven't developed the characters enough, you haven't considered the story enough, you just have this kind of vague idea, and then you just start writing. So I don't know if it's a situation where the scriptwriter didn't have a ton of time or what, but it just kind of feels a bit unfocused, thrown together, like there's just extra stuff added that doesn't really need to be there. It doesn't do anything for the story. Time wasters, you know? And this is the worst. Oh, geez, is what I wrote down. They literally had two characters say exactly what the subtext of the film was supposed to be in a conversation at the end. I can't stand for that. I hate that. That drives me nuts. Like the audience is smart enough to understand what you're playing at. Like don't treat your audience like they're stupid. And when you have literally a conversation between characters where they're telling you what the subtext has been throughout the story, it feels insulting. And it's also unnecessary because it's retreading what your audience members have already seen. There's a saying in writing which is show, don't tell. And I think that's a big thing with this one. Like, please show, do not tell. You were showing, and then you decided to tell in addition. It's unnecessary, it's insulting to the audience, and it's something that drives me personally nuts. Now, maybe some other people don't have a problem with it, but I have a huge problem with it. But anyway, overall, my rating for this one out of 5 stars with half stars in play, 1.5 stars. This is actually my least favorite story of the entire season 3. It's not my least favorite of all the Creepshow stories, but yeah, it's my lowest rated of season 3. And you can see why I was like, I wish they kind of would have buried this episode in the middle and then had the other really strong episodes kind of sandwich it. That would have been better. So the second story in this one, which I think was better, obviously, is A Dead Girl Named Sue. Now, it's not significantly better in my opinion, but directed by John Harrison. John Harrison directed Tales from the Dark Side, Tales from the Crypt, a few stories for those. The House, and then as far as Creepshow goes, he did The House of the Head, All Hallows Eve, Night of the Paw, Times is Tough in Muskie Holler, Within the Walls of Madness, and Okay, I'll Bite. This was written by Heather Ann Campbell, who has written stuff for Saturday Night Live, interestingly enough, The Eric Andre Show, which I've never fully watched before, but I've been interested in, and a little bit for the newer Twilight Zone that they did. And this one is based on a short story by Craig Engler. Now, if you don't know who Craig Engler is, he's like the head of Shudder, actually. And he has some writing credits. Zombie Apocalypse, Rage of the Yeti, and Z Nation. Z Nation was the biggest thing for him. I think he went from doing Z Nation to being the head of Shudder. Like, that was his kind of job jump. And I will say that, like, I have tremendous love for Craig Engler because when he showed up is, I think, when Shudder started really getting a lot better. So he is someone I have a lot of respect for. There are no big names starring in this one. but I do think the acting is good. There's actually one character in particular, Cliven, in this, who the acting style is very interesting and kind of magnetic. Like I felt myself very much drawn to just wanting to see more of that character and just enjoying the performance for that one. It has a really cool aesthetic. As it's black and white and it has interesting lighting to it, it's very much shot also kind of like an old noir style film. Very, very interesting. I like that they kind of took a very different approach for this. None of the other stories in this Creepshow series ever have done this type of look. None of them have done black and white for the entire story, and none of them have done this kind of noir style shoot. And the lighting is very interesting with it. The way they lit it makes that kind of black and white pop more and be more aesthetically pleasing. So I really like the look of this. The camera work is pretty unstable, especially at the beginning. That is something that really bothers me, especially when it's shots of just like characters standing there talking. The camera should not be moving. Use a tripod. We have tripods for a reason. They've been around for decades. Use a tripod. Actually, probably more than just decades. Stable camera work, please. Like, it bothers the hell out of me, especially when, like I said, nobody's moving. Like, it's totally appropriate to have, like, unstable camera work if it's a found footage film, or if it's an intense moment, or if it's moving with characters. I get that. But when they're just stationary, there should be no movement. There shouldn't be shaking around, instability. It's inexcusable in my opinion. I do like the acting. Do want to reiterate the acting in this one is nice, pretty much overall. It's too heavy on dialogue. It's way too heavy on dialogue in this one. It really seems like they added extra dialogue just to, once again, stretch the runtime. That bothered me about it. It's an interesting story at its core, but I think they could have done it in a more interesting way, a more exciting and intense way. There's too much dialogue. Like, they just talk through too many things instead of showing those things. And additionally, they like rehash stuff by talking. And it's like, why? You know, like, why are you continually rehashing stuff? It's a very short runtime. You should have enough material to keep it interesting and keep it moving. So, not loving that. And the ending looks pretty interesting, but I do, or I'm sorry, it says autocorrect, my apologies. It looks kind of hokey. Like, the ending looks hokey, and you'll see what I mean when you see that. It's shot kind of weird. It comes off not that great. But I do like something that they throw in at the very end of it, which kind of changes, actually not kind of, it totally changes the context of the actual story. So yeah, it's interesting. I will say that. And I think that in the end, it's not nearly enough though, like what they do in the ending, because it ties into something else. And I think some people are really going to nerd out about that and really love it. I personally did really like that they did that. But prior to that, it's not that strong of a showing other than the aesthetics, like it looking super awesome and the acting being really good. It's just the script wasn't there, in my opinion. It really was not there. And it probably should have been shaved down, unfortunately. I hate to say that for something so short. So out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm giving it a 2-star rating. So as you can tell, like, this is the worst episode that I've reviewed for season 3, because I've been very high on season 3. So it's really unfortunate that it's coming as the last episode of this season. Like I was saying, I wish they would have sandwiched this, you know, release this as like the fourth episode, like 3rd or 4th episode, and then kind of had the really good episodes on the other sides of it. It would have been great, but I'm not a showrunner. Although I would say, if anyone involved sees this, I actually have some script writing experience and have very good ideas for short stories. So reach out to me. I would love to contribute. I don't think that much of myself that anyone actually would, but just throwing it out there. I have some great ideas for stories that would be wonderful for Creepshow. But anyway, that's my feelings on it. I would love to hear what everyone else has to say in the comments. Once you've seen it, go ahead and comment, and you can do spoilers in the comments. That's no big problem. And like I said, look out for those other videos that are coming. The one where I'm going to rank all the stories from season 3 and talk about season 3 as it compares to the first 2 seasons. And then the other video that I'm going to be doing, ranking every single story from every single season plus the specials. And that one will be probably a kind of long video, unfortunately, but it'll be interesting. Anyway, thank you everyone for checking this out. Do me a quick favor, hit subscribe if you have not already. That is your way to repay me. It is quick, painless, costs you $0, and legitimately does motivate me to keep this thing going, because I'm not making money doing this or anything. This is a hobby, and I'm just reaching out to kind of make horror friends online, basically. I want to talk nerdy about horror, and I don't have anyone around me where I live to do that, so I would appreciate that. But regardless, I thank you for taking your time to watch this, and until next time, keep it brutal.